What makes us tick? Aggravations. What comes first with the comorbid disorders, the chicken or the egg? Any other associated conditions need to be taken into account, and calming their symptoms first may be helpful to TS. Anxiety and stress are known triggers for TS symptoms. Grief and strong emotion can exacerbate symptoms. Excitement and good stress, such as holidays and transitions, can exacerbate. Hunger and tiredness. Substances, particularly stimulants within sports drinks and Coca-Cola and things like that. Physical health, infections and other illnesses, and sleep deprivation. Many of these children have difficulty going to sleep and have restless sleep, which can exacerbate both tics and behaviour. Children with TS are more susceptible to bullying, such as mimicking symptoms, which causes problems. Tourette syndrome is more than tics. It is a very complex condition. Most children have a combination of related issues as well as the tics. Just being aware of these possibilities can be helpful in understanding the child. Over 80% of those with TS also have other comorbid or associated conditions. Often these neurological conditions present prior to tics and can cause frustration and confusion for everyone involved. Some people may have a diagnosis of one or two other conditions, while others may have elements of many of them. For many, the accompanying neurological conditions cause more difficulty than do the tics. It is helpful if educators are aware of the possibility of related difficulties and their symptoms, and aware of effective accommodations, modifications and supports to assist the child affected. Without this information, behaviour may be misinterpreted as intentional, resulting in inappropriate interventions, failure for the student, and aggravations of symptoms. I'm just going to talk about a few of the more common associated conditions with Tourette syndrome. Dysgraphia is very common. Its characteristics include slow and laborious writing, hand and finger cramping, sloppy handwriting such as uneven spacing, irregular margins and inconsistent lettering, the inability to copy correctly from book to paper or board to paper, the inability to transfer thoughts onto the paper. It doesn't mean they don't have the thoughts, it's just they can't get them from their brain down onto the paper. This can be addressed with the use of computer technologies. Some children are eligible for scribes. Other ways you can help is to ensure that notes taken throughout the day are supplied to them at the end of the day. Obsessive compulsive disorder, which is a type of anxiety. OCD is difficult to live with because it is often invisible. Depending on how mild or severe, it may go unrecognised by the parent. Living with OCD can make a child feel stuck or driven to perfectionism. Obsessions are intrusive, unwanted and recurring thoughts, images or impulses which cause distress. And compulsions are behaviours or actions performed to alleviate the distress caused by those unwanted intrusive thoughts. Common obsessions are unrealistic fears and worries, concern for symmetry or need for certainty. And typical compulsions are repetitive behaviours or rituals such as rereading, rewriting, checking, cleaning, counting, ordering or doing something until it feels just right. Seeking reassurance by asking the same question repeatedly despite having been answered. OCD is often not apparent to the teacher or other students. Compulsions often need to be performed over and over again. Some children do not tell anyone about their obsessions or compulsions as they know they are irrational and make them feel crazy. This leads to feelings of isolation. They need to know they are living with a recognised condition to reassure them. Attention deficit disorder is very common with TS. It is a combination of inattention, impulsive behaviour, poor concentration, poor short-term memory with or without hyperactivity, excitability, and problems with executive function. Most boys with ADHD stand out because of hyperactivity and that kind of activity. In girls, one of the most common symptoms is incessant talking and the need to continually speak and finish what they're saying even when they've been asked to stop. This learning disorder may be self-perpetuating. Failure leads to frustration, which leads to anxiety about performance, which then exacerbates the failure. Problems may occur when the student is transitioning from one task to another, has sudden schedule change, has unstructured time in the classroom or playground, is given several instructions at once, is given a long assignment, is looking for someone to sit with at lunchtime, or has to sit still for any length of time. Executive dysfunction is often associated with ADHD, and its difficulties include managing time, forming goals, organising materials and activities, starting and completing tasks, breaking down long assignments and projects, sequencing information, and dealing with the unexpected. Executive dysfunction involves the frontal lobe of the brain, which is responsible for organisation of time, materials, belongings, and thoughts. Students may appear lazy, purposely forgetful, deliberately late, and unmotivated. Living with TS. What matters most, the behavioural issues or the tics? Address the main problems for the individual. Often these are not the tics, or will fluctuate between the two at different times and ages. Often in younger children, the tics are not so much of an issue. It might be more the behavioural, because they're in environments where a lot of movement and noise is permitted. But as the children grow older, they're expected to sit still and quiet for longer periods of time, and that's often when the tics will become more of an issue. TS is commonly misunderstood to be a behavioural or emotional condition rather than a neurological condition. Typical behavioural intervention is a reactive program based on rewards and consequences. However, a proactive and positive approach is best suited to meet the needs of Tourette syndrome. An example is a child wearing glasses. They are not told to remove their glasses and use a bit more willpower, and they'll be able to read the blackboard. It is accepted that they have that need, and they are allowed to have that proactive support. They may also be positioned in a better spot in the classroom so that they can see the blackboard more clearly. That's another proactive support. I'm going to play a game with you. I'd like everyone to stand up. Even if you're listening to this on your own, I'd really like you to participate. I'm going to read a paragraph to you from one of our brochures, and while I'm reading, you're not allowed to blink. If you blink, I'd like you to sit down. Starting from now. Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder which most often begins between the ages of 2 and 21 and lasts throughout life. TS is not degenerative, and people with TS can expect to live a normal lifespan. TS is characterized by rapid, repetitive, and involuntary muscle movements and vocalizations called tics, and often involves behavioral difficulties. The term involuntary used to describe tics is a source of confusion, since it is known that most people with TS do have some control over their symptoms. What is often not recognized is that the control, which can be exerted from seconds to hours at a time, only delays more severe outbursts of symptoms. Tics are experienced as irresistible and eventually must be performed. I'll stop there. Those of you who are still standing, I have some questions for you. First of all, can you tell me what I just read? Most of you will be able to just give me a general outline, but not many specifics. And when I ask why that is, they say because they were focusing so hard on not blinking, they couldn't hear what I was saying. This is what it's like for a child in the classroom to suppress tics, to be holding them off. They have to focus on holding off the tics, and therefore cannot be hearing the instructions given by the teacher. So it comes at a great cost for their ability to learn. My second question is, the longer you're held off, you're blinking, did the urge or desire to blink become stronger or weaker? Most people respond with stronger. Again, this is what it's like when you're suppressing tics. The build-up gets stronger and stronger until eventually you have to perform the tic. And my last question is, when you did allow yourself to blink, did you blink just once or several times? The majority of people say several times. They overcompensate. And that's again what happens when tics are suppressed. They build up and become more explosive and have to overcompensate. So it's really important that children are in an environment where they're allowed to tic throughout the day to avoid that build-up. And let's remember, you were only given one tic to suppress. This is not enough to qualify for a diagnosis of TS. To have TS, you have to have 2 or more motor tics and at least 1 vocal tic. So what reduces the symptoms? Medication. This is used for tics as well as for related behaviours such as ADHD, OCD, anxiety, etc. as part of the management strategy. An experienced physician is very important. There is no medication specific for Tourette syndrome, so it's very much trial and error, and there are always side effects. Unfortunately, you can't drug the part of the brain specific to Tourette's, it drugs the entire brain. The environment, family dynamics to everyday routines really affect Tourette syndrome. So planning and systematic organisation are difficult for some. So creating a calm, routine environment is helpful. Physical activity is a real win-win. Sport and physical activity channel that excess energy positively while improving mood and physical health. Focused activities. Hyperfocus is an advantage of Tourette syndrome. Talents and hobbies can relieve symptoms of TS if absorbing. Finding what that particular interesting, absorbing hobby is for that child is so important. If they can find one thing they're good at and are interested in, they can experience what it's like to be tic-free, and they can also experience success. Managing tics through awareness training, cognitive behaviour therapy, habit reversal training, competing response, and a new therapy called CBIT, which stands for Comprehensive Behavioural Intervention for Tics, is proving very good, although there's not many people in Australia trained in this treatment at this stage. Relaxation, family and social support. With these kind of help, a psychologist is a good place to start. There's substitution of different words or actions, such as elastic bands on wrists for people that might have a tic where a whole arm movement is needed. They can just flick the elastic bands on their wrists to divert that energy. Squeezing a stress ball, clasping hands together or clenching fists. Concentrated deep breathing can help, and chewing gum can help to avoid vocal tics by using up the excess energy in that region. Other relaxation therapies are things like massage, meditation, yoga, tai chi, calming music, long walks, being in nature, swimming, or whatever works for you to reduce stress levels. TS symptoms are often seen as behavioural or emotional difficulties and intervened with reactive programs such as reward and consequences. However, as TS is a neurological problem, it should be given a proactive and positive approach.